The Search for the Seven Sisters. A summer surprise. Hi there, my name is Nick. All year long, my sister Fran and I look forward to our summer vacation. That's when we board the train called the Paducah Special and head out to Paducah Falls. What? You've never heard of it? That's where our grandmother lives. And here she is now. Her name is Gran Gumpelmeyer, but she likes us to call her Gigi. This is Gigi House. It is just like her, warm and full of surprises. Gigi has a dog named Kumquat. He is forever getting into trouble. She also has a swimming pool shaped like guitar. That's where she keeps her pet trout, Elvis. There's plenty to do at Gigi House. Sometimes we dance. And sometimes we work. But we always have fun. One day we were eating Gigi's Wold, famous Fudgo, Matic, Ultra, Gooey, Banana, Split, Cookie Sundays, when she told us, "This summer we are going to do something completely different. We're going on a search." A search, we cried out together. A search for what? A search for my 7 sisters, said Gigi, showing us their pictures. Your great aunts. Each one lives in a distant part of the world. They are very far away. They all look just like you, laughed Fran. Yes, agreed Gigi. They are good-looking gals, aren't they? But I haven't seen them in 7 years, she added, wiping a tiny tear from her eye. I miss them very much. So we packed and we packed and we packed, until at last we were ready to begin our journey. Early the next morning, we pedaled out to the Paducah Falls Airport. Along the way, we waved goodbye to Ms. Leggett, the fastest mail carrier in the country, and to Mr. Bagley, the best baker in town. Ms. Redding, the librarian, leaned from her window and hollered, "Bon voyage." As Gigi explained, that's French for, "Have a good trip." Up, up, and away. Traveling in a hot air balloon, we headed west across the United States. As we floated over the Grand Canyon, we saw people rafting on the Colorado River a mile below. They look so tiny from way up here, said Fran. Well, said Gigi, the Grand Canyon is the largest gorge in the world. It took the Colorado River millions of years to crave it out. With a gentle bump, we landed in Wyoming, a state full of cowboys and cowgirls. To get into the swing of things, we put on all sorts of cowboy clothes, hats, jeans, boots, and chaps. The chaps were made out of leather. They protect your legs from rope burns and cockleburn while you're riding. Next, we visited the reservation of some Indians who have lived in this part of the West for thousands of years. We watched them perform a ceremonial dance. The night, we camped out under the stars. A singing cowboy named Rex taught us a bunch of cowboy songs. He began to yodel, and a coyote joined in. I think that made Kumquat nervous. Maybe that's why he went to bed early. In the morning, we met up with a lawman named Sheriff Bill. Have you seen my sister Kate round these parts? Gigi asked him.
Why, sure. She's at the rodeo. You can't miss her. She's wearing a yellow cowboy hat and red bandana.
The rodeo was a true Wild West show. We sat in the bleachers. Do you see us? We saw Indian Chief on a dappled horse and a cowgirl in purple boots. We also found Great Aunt Kate. Can you? But we lost Kumquat. Now where can he be? Kangaroos, here we come. Great Aunt Kate sure could ride that bucking bronco. We spent a week at her home on the range, then hopped a bus headed for California and the Pacific Ocean. As soon as we got to the Pacific, we set sail for Australia. Along the way, we passed the Hawaiian Islands. They have some of the most active volcanoes and the most incredible surfing in the world. Sit back and enjoy the ride, said Gigi. The Pacific Ocean is the biggest on Earth, so it will take us many days to reach Australia. In Australia, we set off in Jeep, searching for Great Aunt Dahlia. Once we had to stop to let family of kangaroos cross the road. We saw lots of other animals we don't have at home. There was a furry koala bear, and we even saw a platypus. It had the bill of a duck, webbed feet, and thick brown fur. Then we met a man named Outback Bob. He taught us how to throw a boomerang so it came right back. G-Day, mate. Bob spoke English, like us, but it was filled with words I had never heard before. If something was good, Bob said it was bronzer. He called food tucker, and he called his sheep jumbucks. Oh, have you seen our Great Aunt Dahlia? Frank asked Bob. She looks just like Gigi. No, I haven't, he replied. But Australians love to visit the beach. I'd have a look there if I were you. So we headed for the coast. We had a bonzer time at the beach. Fran and I built a big sandcastle, while Kumquat imitated a kangaroo, Best of all, we found Great Aunt Dahlia. Can you? Checking out China, Dahlia turned out to be an ace at volleyball. We spent 3 days plying with her on the beach. Then we said goodbye and boarded a blimp bound for China and Great Aunt Dinah. In China, we flew over bright green rice paddies. Gigi pointed the Great Wall of China, winding away in the distance. Wow, said Fran as snapped a photo. They weren't kidding when they named this wall Great. You said it, Gigi replied. As a matter of fact, the Great Wall of China is the biggest man-made object on Earth. It's the only one that astronaut can see clearly from space. Quite by accident, we landed in Rice Paddy. There we met a farmer named Mr. Wong, who invited us to join his family for lunch. Mr. Wong's daughter, Lei, showed me how to add and subtract on her abacus. Mr. Wong's son, Chen Ho, showed Fran to fly dragon kites. We Chinese invented kites, Chen Ho proudly said. And clocks, spaghetti, and fireworks too, added Lei. Mrs. Wong stir fried meat and vegetables in a big round iron skillet called a wok. Then she served the food in deep bowls filled with rice. It was delicious, and Kumquat was delighted that I was so clumsy my chopsticks. After lunch, Wong's took us to the town market. You can find anything at this market, said Mrs. Wong. Even our Great Aunt Dinah? Fran asked. We all began looking. Gigi saw a man about to trip on a melon. Kumquat played tag with some duck. Then we found Dinah Can You? Rushing to Russia, Dinah, who sold toy panda bear in the market, snowed us some real panda bears during our stay in China. Then we traveled north to Siberia and climbed aboard a train. We were on our way to find Great Aunt Sasha. Gigi told us that our train, the Trans-Siberian Railroad, would take 7 days to reach Moscow, the capital of Russia. Outside, it was summer. Herds of reindeer grazed on plains covered in green. For most of the year, however, Siberian lies buried deep in snow. A Siberian woman showed us a picture of her house in winter. How would you like to shovel that walkway? A week later, we arrived in Moscow. We headed straight for Red Square. That's the heart of the city. But Great Aunt Sasha was nowhere to be seen. We came across some gymnastics giving an exhibition. Many of the world's best gymnastics are Russian, said Gigi. A girl named Tatiana did a fantastic flip on the balance beam. I hope to be in the Olympics someday, she announced. Tanya took us to meet her brother, Ivan, at his ballet school. When he grows up, Ivan wants to dance in the Bolshoi Ballet. I think Kumquat may become a great dancer, too. Let's look for Sasha at the Moscow Circus, Gigi suggested. She always did enjoy a spectacle. Tickets, please, said the clown at the circus gate. Why don't I recognize all those letters? Asked Fran. Because we use a different alphabet, replied the clown. That sign says circus in Russian. And what a splendid circus it was! The famous Russian bears rode about on motorbikes while the trained seals honked up a storm. Even Kumquat got into the act. To top it all off, we found Great Aunt Sasha. Can you? Giddily to Italy, Great Aunt Sasha had joined the circus as a juggler. After the show, Sasha's friend Alexei, a stunt pilot, offered to fly us to Italy. On our way to Italy, we flew over the Alps. They are huge, rugged, snow-capped mountains. Alexei couldn't resist doing loop-the-loops and barrel rolls. Kumquat just loved it. At the airport in Italy, we met a cab driver named Carlo. We asked him to take us to Venice, where Great Aunt Natalie lives. Instead, Carlo drove us to Pisa. Are you sure this is the to Venice? Asked Gigi. It's just a little detour I dreamed up, said Carlo. You can't visit Italy without seeing the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Say cheese, and I'll take your picture. Perfetto, you look so nice. Next, Carlo drove us to a pasta shop in Rome. I never knew spaghetti came in so many shapes and colors. Some green fettuccine and some orange tortellini, please. And now, said Carlo, for a game of football, or as you Americans call it, soccer. We sat in the stands and ate scrumptious Italian ice cream called gelato. When the game ended, Carlo took us to Venice, the city with canals for street. We were sad to say goodbye, but Carlo cheered us up with some advice. Your Great Aunt Natalie would love the Grand Canal. Why don't you look for her there? So we sat in a cafe beside the Grand Canal and watched the gondolas drifting by. Carlo was right. We soon spotted Great Aunt Natalie, an African adventure. Natalie turned out to be a gondolier. She rode us through all the canals of Venice. The Gigi said, let's go find Trina in Kenya. So we sailed south, across the Mediterranean Sea, until we landed in Egypt. That's a country in Africa. Near the Great Pyramids, we hitched a ride with a caravan of camels. They were about to cross the Sahara Desert. "This is the biggest desert in the world," said Gigi. "It felt like the hottest, too. We had to wear special clothes to protect us from the sun." As we traveled toward Kenya, we met people from many different East African tribes. They waved to us and called out, "Jambo!" That means hello in Swahili. In Kenya, we stayed in a farming village. Its houses were round and made of mud, with roofs of grass. I made friends with a boy named Jomo and helped him carry water from the river to his house. Balancing a big pot of water on your head is a lot harder than it looks. The next morning, we visited a Maasai tribe. A girl named Kala gave Fran and Gigi some beautiful necklaces made from colored glass beads. That night, we watched the elder perform a Maasai dance. They wore paint on their legs and faces and danced with spears and shields. Next, we traveled to snowy Mount Kilimanjaro. At the base of the mountain was Tsavo National Park. "This is where Trina works," cried Gigi. "Let's see if we can find here." "Is this a zoo?" Fran asked when we entered the park. "No," said Gigi. "It's a wildlife preserve, a place where animals are protected from hunters." We saw enough different creatures to fill Noah's Ark many times over. And lucky us, we found Great Aunt Trina. Can you? Cruising to Mexico, Trina was a park ranger. Together, we hit up Mount Kilimanjaro, where we had a magnificent view of the park below. But soon it was time to leave. "One more sister to go," said Gigi. "Mexico, here we come." From Kenya, we sailed south to the Cape of Good Hope, at the tip of Africa. A school of whales led us into the Atlantic Ocean. "Those whales migrate thousands of miles a year," said Gigi. "I'm sure we've traveled that far too," said Fran. Weeks later, we arrived on the coast of Mexico and took a train to Mexico City. Gigi told me that 19 million people live here. Then she said, "If I know Coco, we'll find her at the fiesta." Like the city, the fiesta was crowded. While Kumquat did a Mexican hat dance, we ate fresh tortilla and watched some kids trying to break. "Open a piñata, that's a paper donkey filled with candy." Finally, we found Great Aunt Coco. I bet you can too. Coco played the maracas in a mariachi band. She took us all over Mexico, then put us on a plane for home. By the time we got back to Paluca Falls, everyone was dog-tired, especially Kumquat. On a map, we drew our route around the wood. Can you follow it with your finger? Then Gigi said, "That was a terrific trip, but I miss my sisters already. I won't see them again for a very long time." "Kumquat, why are you scratching at the door?" Surprise! It was Kate, Dahlia, Dinah, Sasha, Natalie, Trina, and Coco. The search for the 7 sisters was over, but the 7-year reunion just begun. Can you remember the names of the 7 countries we visited?